The internet didn't wake up ready for this one, but it got hit anyway. One name, one report. One security chief who finally decided to stop playing quiet and start talking loud. And just like that, the question everyone whispered for months got dragged into daylight. Why was the report hidden, and why did Erika want it buried so badly? This didn't feel like a leak that slipped out by accident. This felt intentional, calculated, like someone finally said, "Enough protecting reputations, let's protect the truth." When the security chief's words started circulating, timelines froze. Screenshots flew. And suddenly, people realized this wasn't just paperwork drama. This was damage control with a paper trail. Fans said this made reality TV scandals look like rehearsed skits. Others compared it to those documentaries where one sentence flips the entire story upside down. Because once someone who handled the security starts talking, excuses start sounding thin. The wildest part wasn't what was allegedly in the report. It was the effort to hide it, because secrets don't get buried unless they matter. And this one mattered way too much. The moment the security chief stepped forward, the story changed direction completely. Up until then, everything lived in speculation territory. Rumors, whispers, vague denials. But when someone whose job was literally to document incidents starts explaining why a report was hidden, the conversation stops being theoretical and starts feeling uncomfortably real. Erika's name had floated around controversy before, but this hit different. This wasn't about attitude, feuds, or personality clashes. This was about documentation, paperwork, decisions made behind closed doors. And once the security chief suggested that the report didn't disappear by accident, people leaned in hard. The timeline reacted instantly. Not with shock, but with recognition. That specific kind of reaction where people say, "So that's why things never added up." Old moments resurfaced. Inconsistencies were replayed. Statements that once felt vague suddenly looked strategic. The security chief's position gave the claims weight. This wasn't a random outsider guessing motives. This was someone whose role involved logging incidents, filing reports, and maintaining records. When that person says a report was deliberately sidelined, it reframes every prior explanation. Erika's past responses became the new focus. Fans replayed interviews, posts, and statements, listening for what wasn't said. Silence that once felt like confidence now felt like avoidance. The internet has a brutal way of reinterpreting history once anew. Narrative enters. What really fueled the tension was how specific the reasoning sounded. The explanation didn't feel abstract or emotional. It felt procedural, practical, like a decision made to minimize fallout rather than clarify truth. That distinction made people uneasy. Supporters rushed in to defend Erika, arguing that not every report tells the full story and that internal decisions are often misunderstood. Critics pushed back harder, saying reports exist for accountability, not convenience. The divide wasn't subtle and it wasn't polite. Memes tried to break through, but they didn't stick. Humor felt out of place. This wasn't a joke-friendly controversy. When paperwork enters the drama, things stop being funny and start being serious. Even the internet sensed that shift. The security chief's timing became another debate. Why speak now? Why not earlier? That question alone spawned 10 theories. Some said conscience finally kicked in. Others said pressure built too high. Either way, timing doesn't erase impact. And the impact was already spreading. People started asking what else might have been minimized or redirected. Once trust cracks around documentation, suspicion multiplies fast. One hidden report opens the door to questions nobody wants asked. Erika's credibility took a hit. Not because of a confirmed conclusion, but because of perception. Perception is ruthless. Once people believe information was controlled, every future statement gets filtered through doubt. The phrase, "Why hide it?" echoed everywhere. Comment sections, reaction videos, threads stacked with speculation. Because hiding something implies risk. And risk implies consequences someone didn't want to face. Industry voices stayed cautious. No loud defenses. No aggressive denials. Just distance. When controversy smells like paperwork and liability, people step back and wait. Silence becomes strategy. The security chief didn't sound emotional. That detail mattered. Calm delivery made the claims feel more calculated, more deliberate. Emotion invites debate. Calm invites concern. Erika's silence during the initial surge only intensified the reaction. Fans didn't read it as confidence. They read it as delay. Online, delay equals suspicion, whether fair or not. What made this phase especially volatile was the lack of resolution. No report released. No clear explanation. Just an allegation of concealment hanging in the air like unfinished. Business supporters tried to reframe the situation as misunderstanding. Critics called it damage control. The middle ground vanished quickly. Once the idea of a hidden report enters public consciousness, nuance struggles to survive. The security chief's claim turned a rumor into a narrative. And narratives don't need proof to move fast. They just need plausibility. This one had plenty. By the end of this phase, the story no longer belonged to Erika or the security chief. It belonged to the audience, and the audience had already decided this wasn't minor. This wasn't the explosion. It was the ignition dot, because once people believed truth was managed instead of shared, escalation isn't optional. It's inevitable. Once the security chief's explanation circulated beyond the first wave of clips, the internet stopped pretending it needed confirmation. It flipped straight into investigation mode. People weren't asking if a report was hidden anymore. They were asking how many people knew it was hidden. Suspicion spread faster than clarification ever could. And the tone hardened instantly. Reaction channels treated the reveal like a breaking news alert. Thumbnails went dark, titles sharpened, and everyone suddenly spoke in that slow, serious cadence that means views are about to spike. Concern became a brand strategy. Speculation became content. The louder, the certainty. The farther the video traveled, memes tried to sneak into the conversation, but they didn't last. Humor felt misplaced, like cracking jokes during a fire drill. When paperwork and accountability enter the drama, even the internet hesitates. The laughter sounded nervous, then disappeared altogether. Pop culture comparisons exploded everywhere. People said this made reality TV scandals look like rehearsed skits. Others compared it to those documentaries where one overlooked document flips the entire narrative in the final act. The idea that a single report could change everything gave the story legs. The security chief's credibility became the focal point. Supporters framed the reveal as a whistleblower moment, arguing that someone finally chose transparency over protection. Critics questioned motives, timing, and personal stakes. Both sides spoke with absolute confidence. Neither side waited for evidence. Erika's past statements were replayed with fresh skepticism. Phrases that once sounded firm now felt carefully worded. Silences that once read as confidence now felt strategic. The internet loves reinterpretation, and it rewrote the past aggressively to fit the present narrative. As threads grew longer, theories multiplied. Some argued the report was buried to avoid legal exposure. Others claimed it was hidden to protect reputations. A few suggested it was minimized as routine. The lack of clarity allowed every theory to sound plausible. Influencers dipped into the conversation without naming names. Posting vague thoughts about accountability and transparency, fans treated cryptic captions like insider confirmations. Emojis became evidence. The internet connected dots. It wanted to connect and called it analysis. Media coverage expanded cautiously. Headlines used words like alleged and claimed, but readers skimmed past the caution. The viral conversation had already set the tone elsewhere. Careful phrasing couldn't compete with confident speculation. The question shifted from why the report was hidden to what else might have been managed quietly. Once trust cracks around documentation, suspicion multiplies. People started scanning unrelated incidents, asking whether patterns existed. One unanswered question invited 10 more. Erika's silence during this phase didn't calm anything down. Silence online is never neutral. It becomes a canvas for projection. Every hour without a response felt like confirmation to critics and restraint to supporters. Either way, the pressure increased. The security chief's calm delivery continued to carry weight. There was no dramatic flair, no emotional spill. That steadiness made the claims feel procedural rather than personal. Calm doesn't prove truth, but it convinces audiences something serious is being discussed. Debates intensified in comment sections. Defenders argued that internal reports aren't public documents and that context matters. Critics countered that hiding documentation undermines accountability. The discussion stopped being about one incident and became about power and control. The algorithm rewarded intensity. Measured takes disappeared. Extreme opinions traveled fastest. Videos declaring certainty outperformed videos asking questions. The system amplified confidence over caution. And the narrative hardened quickly. As the story escalated, Erika's image took on new framing. Not villain, not innocent, but questionable. Questionable is dangerous because it sticks. It doesn't accuse directly, it invites endless doubt. It invites endless doubt. The security chief's reveal turned into a reference point. Every new reaction circled back to it. The story didn't need updates to survive. It fed on interpretation, repetition, and reaction. What really escalated the moment was predictability. Audiences began calling the next beats before they happened. Another reaction, another silence, another theory. When people can predict chaos, patience disappears. Industry voices stayed distant. No loud endorsements. No aggressive defenses. Just cautious neutrality. In situations involving reports and potential liability, distance becomes the safest posture. Silence from peers spoke louder than statements. As weeks passed, the conversation widened beyond the individuals involved. People debated transparency, accountability, and who controls narratives when documents exist. These questions don't resolve cleanly, but they generate endless engagement. The story reached saturation. Not because it was resolved, but because it was everywhere. Everyone had an opinion. Few had facts. The narrative no longer needed proof to persist. This wasn't escalation anymore. It was entrenchment. When the noise finally dropped from a full-blown alarm to a low, uneasy buzz, the damage had already settled in. This wasn't a controversy that burned hot and vanished. It stuck to reputations like smoke after a fire. Public perception had shifted, and once that happens, explanations don't rewind the story. People weren't asking what the report said anymore. They were asking why it was hidden in the first place. Erika's image took the most visible hit. Not because of a confirmed conclusion, but because of doubt. Doubt is brutal because it doesn't accuse directly. It lingers. Every past statement now felt questionable. Every future statement would be filtered through suspicion. Once people believe information was managed instead of shared. Trust erodes quietly but permanently. The security chief's role solidified in the public mind as the catalyst. Supporters framed him as someone who finally chose transparency over protection. Critics questioned timing and motivation, but even they admitted one thing. His words shifted the conversation in a way nothing else had. Once documentation enters the narrative, speculation gets teeth. Industry reactions became noticeably colder. No dramatic callouts. No loud defenses. Just distance. When controversy involves reports and potential liability, people don't rush to pick sides. They wait. Invitations pause. Conversations stall. Silence becomes the safest form of communication. What unsettled the audience most was the lack of resolution. No report released publicly. No clear explanation strong enough to shut down theories. Just an accusation of concealment hanging in the air like unfinished business. Unfinished stories keep attention alive longer than explosive ones. Media coverage softened but never disappeared. Headlines grew cautious. Language became restrained. But the implication remained. Quiet coverage proved more durable than viral spikes. This story didn't need to scream anymore. It had already settled in. Erika's continued silence didn't calm the storm. Silence online is never neutral. It gets interpreted, twisted, and repurposed. To some, it looked like restraint. To others, it looked like avoidance. Either interpretation kept the narrative alive. The idea of the hidden report became symbolic. It stopped being about one document and started representing control. Control over narrative. Control over fallout. Control over what the public sees. Symbols last longer than details. And this one attached itself firmly. Supporters tried to reframe the situation as procedural misunderstanding. Critics rejected that outright, arguing that reports exist for accountability, not convenience. The middle ground vanished quickly. Once concealment becomes part of the conversation, nuance struggles to survive. Behind the scenes, relationships adjusted. Friends stayed vague. Associates avoided specifics. Support became quieter and more strategic. Nobody wanted to be pulled into a controversy that now carried paperwork and questions of intent. The internet didn't forget. Even as postings slowed, every new mention of Erika carried extra weight. Normal updates felt loaded. Silence felt intentional. Once doubt attaches itself, even neutral actions feel suspicious. The security chief's calm delivery continued to echo. That calmness became part of the narrative. Not emotional, not reactive, just deliberate. Calm doesn't prove truth, but it convinces audiences something serious is being discussed. And that perception stuck. What made the aftermath heavier was predictability. People called the cycle before it completed. Silence, reaction, speculation. Repeat when audiences recognize a loop. Patience disappears and judgment sharpens. Future opportunities now carried invisible question marks. Interviews would circle back carefully. Questions would be framed politely but never avoided. This moment became an unavoidable chapter, no matter how much time passed. The most damaging outcome wasn't outrage. It was uncertainty. Uncertainty invites endless theories. It keeps comment sections alive and narratives unfinished. Finished stories fade. Unfinished ones linger. This wasn't a scandal that collapsed under its own weight. It stabilized. It became background tension, the kind that resurfaces whenever a name trends or a clip circulates. Old moments didn't disappear. They waited. Did the internet moved on? But not completely. It never does. Stories like this don't end cleanly. They pause, reload, and resurface the moment something pokes the wound again. All it takes is one reminder, one leaked message, one unexpected comment, and everyone knows it. Because this chapter didn't close. If you made it all the way here, don't act like this didn't feel different. This wasn't petty drama or surface-level mess. This was paperwork, power, and perception colliding in public. Whether you believe the security chief told the truth or think Erika's silence says enough on its own. One thing is clear. This story stuck with you. Now take that energy straight to the comments. Say what you really think. Was the report hidden for damage control, or is the internet reading way too much into one claim? Does silence look strategic here, or does it look suspicious? And if that report really didn't matter, then why does everyone seem so nervous about it? No safe takes, honest ones, only smash that like button like it owes you money, and try to dodge the bill. One click tells the algorithm this breakdown deserves attention, not a quiet fade into the archive. Likes don't just help the channel, they keep uncomfortable conversations alive where accountability can't hide. If you're not subscribed yet, fix that immediately. Stories like this don't come with closure warnings. New details surface. Old receipts resurface. One sentence can flip the narrative overnight. You don't want half the story through screenshots and rumors. You want the full breakdown when it drops. Because here, we don't gloss over viral chaos. We question it. We connect the dots. We say what others hesitate to say. This is Secret Scoop, where hidden reports don't stay buried, silence gets analyzed, and every scandal leaves a paper trail. Every scandal leaves a paper trail.